We are now going to jump into the Resident Evil Code Veronica leaks and rumors recap. Now, this is going all the way back to the start. I cataloged everything from all of my videos, articles. I put it all through, and I put together a list, starting with the 4chan leaks a long time ago. So we're going to go through and see, is this lining up? How does this sound? We're going to give our thoughts. Please feel free to give your thoughts in the chat. And if you would like to see us do more of these leak recap videos once we get closer to the release, let us know, because this is kind of our first time doing something where we go back through all of these things we reported on way back to 2022. That's where we're going back to.
Wow.
And to everybody that's here, thank you so much for your support. We're going to read through this, then we're going to come back and read the support. So we appreciate it. Thank you, guys. So it starts back in November 2022. Hirabayashi H, we do it guy, leaves the door open. Capcom producer Yoshiaki Hirabayashi was asked about a possible Resident Evil Code Veronica remake. He said there was no concrete plans, but added that if the opportunity comes, maybe. This stood out because Capcom made similar fan demand comments before with the Resident Evil 2 remake and Resident Evil 3 remake. They have said this. This is actually why I started the Residents of Evil, is because years back in like 2012 or I don't even remember, 2015.
Yeah.
They said that if the fans ask nicely, we'll do it. And that's what got me sparked. I wanted a Resident Evil 2 remake. And so I got online and I found my community online, and years later they announced we do it. They did this.
We do it was one of the best announcements of all time.
Hype. And you know, then they did that with 3. They did not do that with 4. 4 they were already working on. They didn't ask the community. They knew the community wanted it. But back in 2022, they said, yeah, if the opportunity comes, maybe. So that opened the door. Late 2023, so already a year.
Yeah, a
later,
little over a year, right?
Yep. Capcom shuts down fan remake. First alleged playtest leak. So around this time, Capcom reportedly shut down a fan-made Code Veronica remake. While companies often shut down fan projects for legal reasons, many fans saw this as a possible sign that Capcom may have been protecting plans for an official remake. Shortly after, a rumored Code Veronica remake playtest demo leak surfaced on 4chan. This is the first actual leaks and rumors, but I will say Capcom very rarely will shut down a fan project. The only time that I personally know they've done this is with Invader, then Invader Games, now Invader Studios, were remaking Resident Evil 2. Capcom was making an official Resident Evil 2, and they shut the project down. And the community was like, what? But then they were very kind and invited them out to Capcom, where they got to meet a bunch of the dev team and see early projects being worked on. That was very nice of them. But that goes to show, when they shut something down, there's generally a reason for it.
Right.
All right, so shortly after, then we got the playtest demo leak. The leak claimed the remake would use third-person over-the-shoulder camera. Obviously, that's what all the remakes are doing.
Yeah.
Similar to the Resident Evil 2, 3, and 4 remakes. It allegedly begins with Claire's flashback to Raccoon City, which is now different. The original Umbrella building intro would be supposedly become playable tutorial. So that bit where she's running through.
Oh, yeah, the helicopter.
That would be playable.
Or not the helicopter. Well,
yeah, the helicopter.
It is a helicopter. It is,
And I think that's pretty cool, like to play that bit where she's trying to infiltrate and then gets caught. I thought that'd be pretty cool. And that's like the tutorial on how to play the game.
It's cool. Yeah.
And it fits too. They always have these slow moments now in the RE Engine Resident Evil games where they kind of like take you through this beginning chunk before the game actually starts.
Yeah.
With Claire escaping Umbrella guards before being captured and sent to Rockford Island. Rockford Island's prison area was allegedly much larger and more detailed.
Nice.
Claire would still be released by Rodrigo.
Hell yeah.
Glad to have Rodrigo back, baby.
Hell yeah.
Claire would be then meet Steve Burnside in one of the prison cells. So this time he's not out in the prison yard, but he's in a cell. That's interesting. The biggest claim was that players could switch between Claire and Steve in safe rooms. Now that was really interesting.
Whoa.
That was different, yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Maybe Claire could do certain things that Steve couldn't, and vice versa.
Well, because there's the Steve section.
Yeah.
In the original Code Veronica, you know.
It would be a nice way to let you play as both, maybe.
Yeah, they're probably like modernizing it a little.
Yeah. I mean, out of everything I've heard so far from this, it all sounds like it aligns. It could be legit, except this one. This one's pretty different. It's switching between Claire and Steve in save rooms.
Yeah,
It's pretty different.
Right.
Claire would supposedly be better with aiming, knives, hints, and hidden items.
Makes sense.
Steve would supposedly be faster, use stealth, dual-wield guns, throw knives, know certain passwords, but be unable to mix herbs.
Okay.
Which would be a good handicap to that, right?
Yeah, so they both got different skills.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. What do I want to use?
That's
and
pretty
what
cool.
works with me.
That's pretty cool.
This leak was interesting, but still sounded questionable and very fan design like, and that is true. This did sound like somebody's just making up their own interpretation of what a Code Veronica remake would be, especially with the third person. It's a very safe thing to say. Like, of course, it's going to be third person.
Yeah.
Now, flash forward to 2024.
A few months later, right?
Yeah, a few months later.
6 months.
Duskullum claims Code Veronica and Zero are in development. So if you guys don't know, Aesthetic Gamer, Duskullum, an insider, he's gotten some things right, he's gotten some things wrong. The community is very mixed on him. I personally have heard a lot of the things that he said, and I, with people that I know, have heard very similar things. So I will give Dust credit, and he has somebody. He knows somebody or some people that know what they're talking about. Now, is it all legit? Probably not. Do things change? Yes. But I personally find Duskullum to know a lot. A lot. Insider Duskullum, Aesthetic Gamer, claimed Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake and the Resident Evil 0 Remake were both in development, which is huge. Resident Evil 0, as much as I enjoy that as being one of the last fixed camera angle games that Capcom's made, and it's beautiful.
Great looking game.
Issues with the item boxes, not a big deal. It didn't break for me, but the lore was kind of the biggest thing. I wanted to see more Bravo team. Wasn't interested in the story that was kind of shoehorned in my opinion. I felt like her transition between 0 and 1 didn't align. She was a badass in this one at the end of it, and for this one she was scared.
Through war in this one.
Yeah, and then
can't do shit in one.
She
Right.
was more veteran than all of the Stars Alpha team, and then but I felt like a remake would actually be very beneficial to that game. Like, it would fix a lot of the problems I had with the story and lore. No, you're good.
I'm wondering though with RE1 remake too that's supposedly happening.
That's
maybe
coming down the line.
Maybe they'll fix that too though with the Rebecca.
It would make a lot of sense if they're doing both of them.
Great.
All right. He claimed Code Veronica Remake was being handled by Capcom Dev 1, which is the people who worked on Resident Evil 2 Remake and 4 Remake. He claimed that 0 Remake was being led by K2 and M2. So M2 is the same company that did the Resident Evil 3 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake's DLC Separate Ways. M2 had worked on 4 remakes separate ways, but was also connected to Resident Evil 3 Remake, which made some fans cautious. Me, as one of those fans that made very cautious. When they do a kind of more of a streamlined linear DLC, they do fine. Separate Ways was fantastic, and it fit for that character.
Yeah, sure.
When they do a mainline game where it needs to be open and have that sort of a big area that slowly unlocks over time, and it's more backtracking and stuff. Like I feel like they kind of missed the ball a little bit with that. Kind of rush it. They leave a lot of things out. So a side thing, fine. 0, that made me nervous, dude. I feel like that's a big game that needs a lot of attention. And then we got Dusk also said Resident Evil 9 had allegedly been pushed back to late 2025 or 2026, which we're in 2026.
He was right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
that's
he was
true.
right.
It came out at the beginning of this year.
Yeah.
At that time, he said another Resident Evil 1 remake was not in development as far as he knew. And that's when I started making videos on other people that were saying that, and I was like, usually it was all stuff he was saying, but then I remember seeing quite a bit, and people were asking me, are you going to make a video on this? And I was like, I guess I probably should. August 2025.
Yeah.
Development allegedly going well. Major story and gameplay changes. Ooh. Dusk allegedly claimed Code Veronica Remake development was going exceptionally well. Seconds things that I've heard as well. He reportedly said that the project was ahead of Capcom's internal schedule. Seconds things I've heard as well.
That's good.
That's good.
That might mean that they're going too quick.
He also
it's good.
repeated that Capcom Dev 1 was handling the remake.
Good.
Onpo and Kodai were also allegedly leading the project. Dusk allegedly claimed that Chris vs. Wesker would become a playable boss fight instead of only a cutscene, which also makes sense because they did that now with 4 remake. They did it with Leon and Krauser,
right? And
then Requiem they did it with Honk, Commander, and Leon. Yeah. Like I could see Chris and
that'd be sick.
Wesker going to battle, kind of.
That would be sick. Yeah,
they got the gameplay mechanics for it.
Great.
He reportedly said Chris no longer fights Alexia at the end. That's interesting. So when you're in that Spencer Mansion replica building, he won't be fighting her. Okay. They're going to probably change that up a little bit. Instead Claire would fight Alexia, making the remake more clearly centered around Claire's story.
Right. Okay.
Chris would still have a major role, but Code Veronica Remake would allegedly be treated more as a Claire's game, which it kind of, to me, even though they had almost a 50-50, I'd say it would be like 60-40 or maybe like 65-35. But it always kind of, to me, seemed like a Claire game.
Yeah.
With Christmas
I would say it's about
bonus.
65, 35, right?
Yeah, 65, 35 sounds
70, 30.
reasonable.
Yeah.
Wesker would allegedly have a much larger role, which is great. And now that they brought him back with 4 Remake, and they've kind of brought back his clone knockoff in Requiem, it would make sense for them to kind of go back and revisit that character with the new actor and kind of give him a larger role because they're setting something up here. The HCF Wesker's organization would reportedly be expanded and become a bigger plot point. That's fine. This would help better set up Wesker for a possible future Resident Evil 5 remake. That would be crazy. And they really hinted at a Resident Evil 5 remake after Resident Evil 4 at the post-credits, or not the post-credit scene, but the it was a
after credits.
scene,
Yeah. I remember right before the credits, one of the two, right?
Yeah,
I think it was after though.
He was like talking about his plans and billions are gonna die. It felt like it was setting up a 5 remake.
Billions or whatever he said. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if they eventually, at this point, if they do remake Code Veronica and they remake 0 and they eventually do 1, then where do you stop? Because then they could do 5, and they could make 5 a little slower pace, more horror focused, and then no, hear me out. This is crazy, but I think 6 needs it bad. 6, I want Outbreak. Outbreak's the one I want number 1. Code Veronica I think is the most deserving, but I also think that 6 would be one that would benefit from a remake.
6 needs it a little bit, right?
I mean, at that point, where do you stop?
Well, then it's going to be 4 years in the future, and then 7's going to be outdated. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I don't think they'll ever get to 7
I'm just
anytime
saying,
soon.
though.
But yeah, I think they would. You're not wrong. They would probably go Code Veronica 1, 0, and then if those sell well and are very popular,
Outbreak.
Then maybe that's what I said. My number 1 is
They
Outbreak.
need it.
I know. I would love to have it.
I need it.
I need it too. Then Steve Burnside would allegedly get a personality overhaul, which we kind of expect. Yeah. He would still keep some of his quirky traits, but would be less annoying or cringy for modern audiences.
That, yeah.
He's pretty cringy.
I like the cringe.
Yeah.
He's an 18-year-old kid or whatever he is.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit. Like a balance, I think, would be fine. Rockford Island would allegedly become a semi-open, and I've heard this too, that there are going to be areas you kind of.
Wasn't there a whole rumor about the motorcycle or having an open world? Is that are you getting that?
I think that was aesthetic. I don't think it's in here, but I think Dusk said that she'd have a motorcycle.
I remember hearing
kind
that.
of traverse. Now, the thing with that is, when I heard that, I was like,
they're about to say our next.
It would.
Yeah, you did have
Claire's bike would supposedly allow for greater exploration of the island. Now, when I heard that, I was like, no, I think an open world concept would be great for a side Resident Evil game. But as far as the mainline games, I don't like that. But then I remembered Resident Evil 4 makes Chapter 4, where you can just do the story, or you can go off on your own and find treasures. And that was actually really cool, because I like screwing around or just getting to the point. And I could see like how that worked. That could make sense.
It could. You want to know one of my favorite games? Days Gone, when they did the open world the perfect way.
Yeah, see, Days Gone is fantastic for that.
Yeah, it's a different kind of game, though, right?
It's a different kind of game. It is a great game, and it works perfectly for that game. But for Resident Evil, I wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't either, but
that Chapter 4 did feel like a balance between open area, semi-open world, and still being a nice flow of a Resident Evil game. So if they do that semi-open, that's kind of what I had hoped. And now we're moving into October 2025. 2026 reveal, 2027 release rumor. Dusk Golem allegedly claimed there was a high likelihood that Code Veronica Remake would be revealed in 2026. Well, it's 2026. That could be very soon.
He's right.
Yeah, he might be
I don't know.
He reportedly claimed it would release in Q1 2027, which is very soon. We still have the Requiem DLC
a year after
coming out. Yeah.
Pretty good.
He also claimed Resident Evil 0 Remake needed a major retooling. Yeah, because M2, you got M2 on it. What did you expect?
Come on, man.
We did this before with 3. He also claimed that Resident Evil 0 Remake needed major retooling. I did read that. According to this rumor, Zero's development may have shifted away from M2 as lead developer and moved more directly under Capcom. Good. That's good.
It is good.
If you want M2 to do like a DLC or something, cool, fine.
Right.
But as far as the main game, this is now the second time I've heard this. Let's just take it in-house. Dev 1. I'm not saying Dev 1 is perfect. There's things in Resident Evil 2 Remake that they left out, like the marshalling yard, spider, etc. The A and B scenarios were not great, but they are far better than M2. And it seems like they learned a lot from their mistakes in 2 and improved that with 4, because I feel like 4 is the best they have done since the Resident Evil 1 remake, which is still to this day my favorite remake.
Well said.
Thank you. 0 was allegedly pushed further back, possibly targeting 2028. So originally 0 was going to come first, then Code Veronica, but now it looks like they flipped. Interesting. This supported the idea that Code Veronica may have moved ahead of 0 in Capcom's release order.
Right.
Now we're in May 2026. Right now, this is a new video I just put out last week. New rumor wave, horror focus, Summer Game Fest possibility. A newer rumor claimed Capcom held a meeting in June or July of 2022, way back to the start of these leaks and rumors, where several future Resident Evil projects were decided. The projects were allegedly Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake, Resident Evil 0 Remake, another Resident Evil 1 Remake, and Resident Evil 10. I will say, yeah, of course they're going to do 10. But one remake,
That's the wild one.
a remake of
Yeah.
a remake, I can totally see it now, what they're doing with the RE engine
Yes.
and remaking the games. It's like that one,
Yes.
it feels like it's on a different plane than
does.
these ones, right? But that one's my favorite
I've always
one.
said selfishly we need it in the RE engine, dude.
And I've come around. I'm not going to lie. I would love to see it in the RE engine, but
Selfishly,
damn, big
you know?
shoes to fill.
We don't need it, right? But selfishly, I want to see it. You know what I
If you're
mean?
doing 0 and you got them all in the RE engine over the shoulder, like
One's one of the more important
kinda
ones
do.
too, right? One's
is-
where it all started.
it's incredibly important. Yeah. So if they're like making this new kind of like
RE engine.
they're telling this kind of within a different timeline than the original games, while everything happens very similar. Some things are different, you know. So like I always looked at the Resident Evil series as two timelines. You have the originals, and then you have the remakes. They're both very similar, but sometimes they branch out in different ways.
Right.
You know.
Right on.
Multiverse. We're in the Resident Evil multiverse
It's true.
right now.
It's true. We got Zach Krieger now. We got
He's making his own shit. I don't know what he's doing. The rumor claimed Code Veronica and 0 may have swapped release spots, with Code Veronica now possibly coming first. Code Veronica Remake is allegedly planned as the next major Resident Evil release. The expected announcement window is allegedly sometime in 2026. The rumored release date window is allegedly in the first half of 2027. Dusk Golem reportedly said Code Veronica Remake is leaning much harder into the horror than the original. I like to hear that. I
First
thought
one was
the
pretty
first-
horror. I was just saying.
I will say
They got that freaking doll hanging up, like a lot
The
of
doll.
scary, you know?
Yeah, I thought the first one was much more in line with like the classic horror of Resident Evil and that tension. But I will say, like, I know when you think, when did it start shifting into action? Everybody thinks 4. I remember when I first played Code Veronica and she was running past that helicopter, and I was like, come on, you can't do that.
And
I
like,
thought it was cool.
You need a
I
lot
was
more
like, come on.
bullets. You need a lot more bullets too in the Code Veronica and like the bow gun.
You
and
do,
stuff. You know, it's more
yeah.
actiony that way.
I guess. You could say 3 was more actiony than 2.
Three
but
did. Well,
they were moving that way, right?
yeah.
But it's going more horror focused. I like that. The remake would still have action and some of the weird, silly Code Veronica elements, but the horror atmosphere is supposedly being pushed much further, which is fantastic, because we were just talking about what we would want to see and would we want some of that silly cheese in it, and I said yes, 100%. A lot of that, like Alfred,
Yeah.
it kind of makes it. You can make it a little
Well,
creepier.
Yeah,
but it's kind
that
of
makes sense.
It's kind of part of it.
And he's been locked up in his castle for how long? You know, like he's gonna be a little weird.
I want a little bit of the weird stuff. Like
Yeah.
4, they kind of retained a lot of those quirky things.
They still did like the Salazar and stuff.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
he
they
was
still
still,
did it.
you
A
know,
little different, but same. Just like Resident Evil 1 Remake did similar things as the original Resident Evil, but a little different. Like,
Yeah.
You gotta have some of it.
100%.
You were almost a Jill sandwich is still better than you'll fit nicely into a
Yeah,
sandwich.
what was that?
But, yeah. But anywho, the remake will still have. I read that. The reasoning given is that Capcom's internal data allegedly shows horror-focused moments are some of the most successful and well-liked parts of Resident Evil.
Right.
Makes sense.
Why they did Chunk like the baby and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
I just don't want them to make it too scripted. I love the horror ones.
Yeah.
I love Beneviento section, but that thing's a nightmare to replay 5 or
Right.
6 times. It's just a chore. Like I liked it the first time, maybe the second time, but you know I don't like when it's so scripted. I like to.
It's the same thing every time, right?
Yeah, I feel like X pursuing you in 2 wasn't as scripted. He would
No.
show up in certain parts,
Yeah.
but it was still tense, but still allowed you to kind of go about it the way you want it, right?
Yes, sir.
And then, like, I would say Requiem's, that, you know, big hag, she was,
Yeah.
like, mixed, though. She was still kind of scripted.
She's a lot of scripted too.
Like,
Yeah,
very
a little
tense,
more
you
than
go about
X.
it a little different, but it's a little more scripted than X.
I'd say a little more than X, right?
Yeah. The remake allegedly being developed for
Is
current gen
allegedly,
platforms, with PlayStation 5 specifically mentioned in one report. Yeah, so it could be at State of Play. Safer wording, current gen platforms, unless Capcom officially confirms platforms. Okay.
Like
I mean,
new ones, like a PS6 and stuff.
oh,
you know
okay,
what
yeah.
I
I was
mean?
gonna say it's not coming out for 4. You know?
Right. I think PS6 is supposed to be announced recent, like maybe
okay.
soon. Like,
That's crazy.
you
I mean,
know.
at this point, they've overgone their 10 years. So
Yeah.
we'll probably see a release that any year now. They're gonna
Probably this year.
This year. Safer wording, I read that. Another claim is that Code Veronica may be built in Capcom's newer REX engine, which, of course,
definitely is.
Of course. The remake may allegedly feature a more semi-open structure for exploration. We've heard this before. The original content is supposedly being retained, while some locations are being significantly expanded. That's interesting.
Significantly is interesting.
Yeah, so that might go into the semi-open world, but some of the original content is being retained. So they're going to change some things up a little bit.
Most of it's being retained is what it's kind of saying.
Oh,
but they're going to expand on it.
Okay, they're going to keep it all intact, but expand. Yes. Okay, that's good. I like to hear that. What are you guys thinking so far in the chat? Let us know. The team behind the remake is again claimed to be the same team tied to Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 4 Remake, Dev 1. Dusk also reportedly said Summer Game Fest 2026 could be where Capcom reveals Resident Evil Code Veronica Remake. He was not 100% certain, but believed it was a strong possibility. And that echoes the things I've heard too. Like I said, I would think the Resident Evil Requiem DLC would be shown before we get a reveal, but a lot of people are saying there's a very, very good chance.
Well, I mean, it sounds like it's well ahead of schedule, so maybe that's why it jumped.
Yeah, and maybe they're trying to capitalize on the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil. They're trying to make this as hyped as they possibly can. Requiem dropped. They announced a DLC. They shadow dropped the bonus mode. Then you got Zach Krieger's Resident Evil. Then you drop this on top of it. Then the story DLC comes out, and then following up is
they're just throwing everything right now. That's wild.
It's a lot. So if it's true, that's a lot. That's like I don't recall them announcing a Resident Evil game before they released the story DLC, but maybe it's happened and I just forgot. But almost everything I've heard from that, though, there's nothing in there that I don't like.
No, yeah.
Like they haven't said anything where I'm like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that, or oh, I don't like that. It all sounds overwhelmingly positive for me. I don't know. Was there anything that stood out for you guys that you're like, I don't know if I like that, or I don't want to change that or do that?
I guess chat says they did announce RE4 Remake before they released Shadow of Rose. I don't remember that exactly, but
you're right, because they had a Capcom showcase where they showed both.
Is that how it went? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that.
Good chat, Mike.
So that is like the briefest recap of everything since 2022, and all of it has been very consistent. The first 4chan leak was the one that went the most in depth, but that again could be a fan made up leak, or it could be legit. Maybe they were it's hard to believe that they would have talked about what they're doing in 2022 and also released a playtest demo. So that one, I would say, out of all this, seems the most but everything else has been very consistent over the years. Now, are we going to see it at Summer Game Fest? I don't know, but I'm going to be streaming it. Corey will be with me. Andy will be with me. And we'll also be live with State of Play, which is June 2nd, I believe. We're going to be live with both of them. So that'll be exciting times, guys. I mean, even if we don't see the Code Veronica, but we see the Resident Evil 9 Requiem story DLC, I'll be very excited for that.
Right?
But if we see both, oh my God. That's too much to take in.
That's just too much. It really
too much to take in. But yeah, again, if you're watching the replay of this, let me know your thoughts, in the chat or in the comments. Very curious, and we'll have a discussion about it. But